This is Senator John Laird, and I am really sorry I cannot be with you at the Democratic Women's Club Forum. I am on my way, as you see this, to New York City for Climate Week. We just had a very successful session with regard to climate, and a number of us from the legislature are going to New York to showcase what we're doing. So I am sorry that I can't be there. But I always talk to the Democratic Women's Club about propositions, and today I'm talking about Proposition 50. There's so much about this that you already know and is obvious, but let me go into it a little bit. The Central Coast is getting hit hard by the current administration. A lot of us worked hard to save Watsonville Hospital a few years ago, and the Medicaid cuts are threatening its very existence again. We worked hard to fund a levee project for Pajaro, and now the federal funding for some of it out a few years is being threatened. There's crops where we can't get them all picked because the immigration policies are scaring people that bring us food, and the agricultural industry in the Central Coast is endangered. We are walking away nationally from climate right at a time that it is very important. The University of California plays a big role in our community, and $4 to $5 billion is the threatened cut from the federal government. So if you just look at everything, we are really threatened on the Central Coast, and the only option we have is to make sure that the House of Representatives flips in the midterm elections to match exactly where the people are and exactly these issues to deal with it. The president knows this, so he is working hard to rig the election. He got Texas to redraw their House districts to flip as many as 5 seats to the Republicans. Missouri is looking at one, Indiana is looking at one, there's talks of other states, and if we don't take action in California, we allow them to rig the 2026 election. So that is why it was proposed, and we have put on the ballot Proposition 50. And when you look at what Texas did, they did it in a certain way. They broke up communities of color to be able to make more Republican districts. Communities of color that are represented by Democrats of color. They did it in the legislature. They didn't go to the people. And they don't have a commission system, and they didn't propose going to a commission system. So if you look at all those things, that's how Texas did it. In California, we've done it a different way. We have a commission system, and we're not changing it, proposing changing it for the Assembly or the Senate, but for the House. And we would only change it through the 2030 election, and then it would go back to the commission process that exists. We worked hard so that communities of color are not divided, and in fact, if the maps on the ballot are adopted, there would likely be one more seat in California represented by a Latino. And the important thing is that we need to make sure that the national policy is reversed in this election. If we don't act in California, a 3% tilt to Democrats in the congressional vote nationally would result in an even number of seats. We have to fight fire with fire because this is an existential crisis for our democracy, an existential crisis for the rule of law, for the things that we hold dear. And so that's why we've put this on the ballot. It doesn't affect the Central Coast dramatically. Jimmy Panetta and Salud Carbajal would have exactly the same districts. Zoe Lofgren, who represents part of Santa Cruz County, would lose a little bit of San Jose and move into Coalinga in the Central Valley. But there are 5 places in California under these maps that the districts would rotate and a Democrat would likely be elected. In the area in the far north of the state, now represented by Republican Congressman Doug LaMalfa. In the foothills near Sacramento, now represented by Kevin Kiley. In southern San Joaquin County, now represented by David Valadeo. In the east of Riverside and the Inland Empire, where the district of Ken Calvert would be collapsed. That would result in the Latino district in Los Angeles. And in northern San Diego County, where Darrell Issa would likely be squeezed out of his seat. Those would be 5 seats. Those would match what happened in Texas, so we still have an even playing field going forward. The interesting thing about this is I support commissions, and I ran in a very gerrymandered district that I lost in 2010 by between 3 and 4 points. But then when the district was ungerrymandered, I won by 145,000 votes. If you look at San Luis Obispo County, there was a horrible redistricting where they tried to jam in 2021 all the Democrats into one supervisorial district to make the other 4 competitive for Republicans. It backfired, but I did a bill last year that does an independent commission for San Luis Obispo, and I really talked on the floor about that because the very Republicans that now hold true to commissions didn't support the bill. I referred to them as born-again commission lovers, and when they said that politicians should not be allowed to choose their voters, I said on the floor of the Senate, unless you're from San Luis Obispo. And they said, reach into your soul. And I said, you reached into your soul, except if you're from San Luis Obispo. And they said, no political rigging. I said, unless you're from San Luis Obispo, because the very people that say we should stick with commissions want to stick with it because that doesn't respond to Texas. This is about President Trump. This is about the future of our democracy. This is about not allowing elections to be rigged. And interestingly, 2 of the biggest organizations that supported commissions, the League of Women Voters and Common Cause, are staying neutral in this race in California because they understand. So that is a dissection of the issue. What you would be voting on Prop 50 was the maps, going to 2030 with these maps, going back to the commission after this, and not affecting state offices and the redistricting. This is very important. And so and originally we had a trigger in this that California wouldn't do it until Texas did it. But before we put it on the ballot, Texas did it. So we just knew they were doing it. No trigger was required. So I hope you will consider this very carefully. This is not about setting aside good government. This is about protecting good government, protecting the rule of law, and protecting our Central Coast from what the federal government is doing to it. Thank you for allowing me to present, and I look forward to seeing you all in person soon.
Reached out to the governor and I said, is this real? And we had a conversation and it was. But what I required, what I said is that it has to be open and transparent and it has to involve voters. So that is exactly the path we went. This is my 5th redistricting in my lifetime. So this is not something new to me. I've seen many of these. And this is the most open and transparent redistricting I have ever seen. All these measures came through my committee as the chair of the Assembly Elections Committee. So we held a hearing on these and heard testimony on these issues. And I kind of equated it to, I mean, as Senator Laird said, we are under attack by this fascist authoritarian government we're seeing in DC. They are taking food away from children. They are taking healthcare away from our most vulnerable. They are doing ICE raids, ripping families apart. They are they're acting with such, lack of respect and care for our most vulnerable people in this state. They don't give a damn about anyone who is not a billionaire. And the attacks are not going to stop. And we're in our first, few months of this administration. So I am not a violent person, but if somebody broke into my home and attacked my children, I could grab that kitchen knife and I could stab them in the heart. Okay? So this is what's happening right now in California. We got a federal government that is attacking our state, attacking our people, ripping families apart, hurting children, hurting veterans, hurting disabled persons, hurting seniors. So damn right, I am ready to fight. So this measure is exactly that. This is a referendum on this Trump administration, and this is a turnout election. When we vote, we will win. But it's November 4th and voters aren't always so inclined to vote in these special elections. So we need to be we gotta be doing phone banks. We gotta be knocking on doors. We gotta be reaching out. We gotta be writing postcards. We have to talk about this everywhere we go. If you're in the elevator going somewhere, talk to the people in the elevator. Hey, what do you think about Prop 50? And explain why it's important to you. And the things that we got to keep in mind is this is a response to Trump. And as Senator Laird said, he called Texas and said he was entitled to 5 more Republican seats. Just the way he called Georgia and said, I'm entitled to 11,000 more votes after he lost the election. So this man is not, I mean, he is not stopping. He doesn't abide by the Constitution. He doesn't abide by the laws. So we have to fight back in the same ways that he is fighting, but we're doing it openly and transparently with voters. The maps are available on my Assembly Elections website. They're going to be in the voter information guide that you're going to get. And again, I have never seen a redistricting where we've shown voters the maps before we voted on these. And the interesting thing about it is that 76% of the lines are the lines that the Citizens Redistricting Commission drew. So only 24% of them have been tweaked, realigned, using the Voting Rights Act, using compactness, using geography. And what we're asking voters in this constitutional amendment is, do you want to amend the Constitution to also add political party registration to redrawing these lines so we can carve out 5 more Democratic seats? So this is open, it is transparent, it is a fight against the Trump administration, it is temporary. So this only is in effect until 2020, and then our Citizens Redistricting Commission takes over and does the redistricting for the next decade. So these are really key points that we want to stress to voters as far as why we are doing this and why it is absolutely essential for them to vote yes on Proposition 50. So I'm happy to take questions. And let me just say, ballots are going to be mailed out in early October. And another thing about ballots, stuff's going on at the U.S. Postal Service. And who controls the U.S. Postal Service? So I would not be mailing my ballot back anytime after a week before the election. There's issues happening with the postmark on these. They're not postmarking things anymore. So the best thing to do, especially if you're local here in Santa Cruz, just drive up to one of those drop boxes, drop it in the box. It goes directly to Trisha and her team that clear those out every single day, or bring it into a vote center. And we got to spread that news statewide. And I've been talking to our Secretary of State Weber on this as well, as far as messaging. And I just passed legislation as well to protect our voting centers against armed guards, against Marines, or anything else that they're going to deploy. And I also passed legislation that's to the governor right now to ensure that every county elections official certifies their election. Okay, I'm worried about Shasta. Shasta has a MAGA county clerk registrar of voters. And so we have to make sure that when these votes are cast, they are counted accurately, securely, and that they are certified. So, and then I also, in this election here, I gave up my prized ACA so we could do this election. So we were short on constitutional amendments, so I gave up mine so we could pass the ACA 8 to call this election on November 4th. So questions?
Anybody gets this loud as yelling, I
can repeat it.
The only question I have is, okay, if I'm in the elevator with somebody and I'm trying to explain why to vote for Prop 50, how do I get informed enough to where I remember what to say? Do I go down to a different what do I do?
So the Democratic Party has a number of messaging around this, but I would keep it to three simple things. This is a fight. This is our response against Trump's fascist actions against California. It is temporary, and it is open and transparent, and it's up to voters. Keep it simple like that. This is a response to what we're seeing in our streets. It's a response to the actions this administration is taking against our state. Yes.
Just to follow that, there is merch available at the CC headquarters on Front Street, but we can make sure that the club leadership here has it. Yard signs, hockey pieces to help practice those hockey points, buttons, all kinds of different kinds of swag.
Okay.
That we can do.
So head down there after this. Yeah. And also today, just my care fair, 11 to 2, over at the county building. Come for tacos, come for resources. Did you have a question? No, you're just waiting.
I have a quick question.
Okay, yes.
Assuming it passes, which I hope it does, is there like a legal defense argument we thought about if it gets challenged?
Okay, well, she's asking about if it does pass, what, do we have a legal defense ready if it passes? Because it will be challenged. And yes, the Democratic, the California Democratic Party is ready for the legal challenges, and we are prepared to fight this in the courts. And you know what? Here's the deal. This has got to pass.
Yeah.
If Prop 50 does not pass, we need to be really worried about the future of California. I mean, this really truly is an existential election. So we have to get people out to vote. And it is a turnout. We got to get them to vote.
I just wanted to say that the one thing that we can all do and tell other people to do is to mail back your ballot really early, because it helps the grassroots people who are calling voters. Please have you turned in your ballot? They're chasing the vote. They'll go to the vote, they'll get copies of voter rolls, and they'll be calling or texting, or so you remove some of their workload if you just vote early. And I had an email from somebody who I believe bring you a yard sign. And if you want to email me, then my name is Carol Fuller. My email's Fulkins, Fulkins @Cruise.io. I'll forward it to her. Her name is Charlene. And she wants, you have to live in the city of Santa Cruz. Well, no, you don't have to live in the city of Santa Cruz for Prop 50. I misspoke, was on to the next propositions. And she's looking for, since they don't have unlimited yard signs, prominent streets. If you live on King Street, Swift Street, Mission Street, California Street, they don't want to put them on cul-de-sacs and streets that don't really go any distance, that don't have traffic on them.
I've got my sign out that says, "Don't poke the bear." Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be the last question we have. There's one
Any
more
other questions?
desire. If there's already decided, one last question.
Over here.
Okay, and you know how to reach me.
There you go.
Online question, I thought it was a response to the Republican redistricting more than a response to other terrible action against California. Can you clarify?
Well, I mean, it's both. I mean, we would not be redrawing the lines if Trump did not call Texas and basically say he was entitled to 5 more Republican seats. So yes, it's a direct response to Texas. But it's also because Trump is trying to rig the election so he can control what happens in our state. And if you like what's happening in our state with the Trump administration, sorry. I mean, I can't be there with you. Okay.
Thank you, Assemblymember Pellerin. Yes. I'm going to turn the mic over to my colleague Elizabeth Melber, and we're going to proceed with debates on measures B and C. But first, I have a favor. I've lost my phone. And I put it down somewhere. I never lose a phone.
Yeah.
What- yeah.
Can you
Are we all trying to call?
831-332-9285, except I think the ringer's down.
I'm calling it.
Oh, well, that, we don't need.
It's.
What?
It's
It's been found. No applause for that. All right. Okay. Elizabeth Melberg is going to take over. You want to be at the podium?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
No problem. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. We're going to move more towards local issues now, and we really appreciate your participation today. And thanks to everybody that's online as well. I just wanted to explain how this process is going to work, and then we'll get through introductions and get started with these local measures. So first of all, we will have some speakers. We have 3 speakers here today. The first speaker will be a speaker speaking on no on Measure B. Measure B is the Workforce Housing and Climate Protection Act of 2025. We did reach out to the Yes on B committee, and they were unable to send a speaker. We did do some research and try to find someone to speak on behalf of Measure B, but no responses. However, we are very happy to have someone here today, Dawn Lane. Thank you for coming up, Dawn. We'll get you a name tag or place card. Dawn is the current president of the Board of Directors of Housing Matters. And again, he will be speaking on no on Measure B. Each speaker will have 4 minutes today to present their perspectives. We will have 2-minute rebuttals, and then a 1-minute wrap up, and then we'll move to the audience question and answers. So when Kristen and Dawn are ready, the 4 minutes may begin.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak here today on in opposition to Measure B. Let me tell you a few things about Measure B, or as I like to call it, Measure BS. I'm not trying to be mean when I call it Measure BS. I call it that because there is so much disingenuous crap in the measure itself and in its supporters' propaganda that it truly deserves that label. First, Measure B spokespersons, leaders of the real estate industry and the Board of Realtors were quoted multiple times in the local press saying that they oppose real estate transfer taxes. Then they said they wanted to create an alternative to Measure C to help defeat Measure C. And then the alternative they created, Measure B, contains the real estate transfer tax they say they oppose. It's really unbelievable BS and hypocrisy. Next, they created a Measure B that will generate a very modest amount of revenue. Then they said this revenue would pay for repairing city infrastructure such as the wharf and Westcliff and city streets, and also build a bit of affordable housing. What do you imagine a measure that raises less than $1 million a year can do for the multi-million-dollar wharf project, the multi-million-dollar continued repairing of Westcliff, the multi-million-dollar effort to maintain storm-damaged streets, and the multi-million-dollar effort to build genuinely affordable housing? I can tell you exactly what it will do. Very little. But this is beside the point for the real estate lobby. They simply want to kill Measure C by pretending to do more, by having a longer list of things they might fund. In reality, the only more we're getting in Measure B is more hot air. Next, consider this about the two project categories they named: infrastructure repair projects and housing projects. The impartial city attorney analysis says the following about Measure B, and I'm quoting: it's unclear how these two categories of expenditure are germane to a single purpose as required by the single subject rule for ballot measures under California law, unquote. In other words, the nonpartisan city attorney with great expertise in California law is suggesting that Measure B will violate state law if it passes, and so off we would all go to court, delaying everything. Here's another one. Now I'm quoting the Realtor written ballot statement. Measure B is the only true citizen-led measure on the ballot, unquote. This is an incredible whopper. Measure C was developed over several years with public meetings right here in this room and sponsored by a grassroots local community organization, Housing Santa Cruz County. Measure B was created with hundreds of thousands of real estate lobby dollars without any public meetings or community input. On this one, the real estate folks are simply lying. Finally, I need to mention this line from the Measure B ballot statement. Quote, Mayor Keeley and other insider opponents of Measure B are foolishly engaged in climate denialism, unquote. It takes a special kind of chutzpah for the state and national real estate lobby with virtually no history of work on climate change to say that Fred Keeley, whose record on climate and environmental issues is unsurpassed in this community, is engaged in climate denialism. That one has me so angry that I won't just call this BS. It's libelous, it's Trumpian. They have no shame. They'll say literally anything to sway your vote. The truth be damned. If you want fake solutions, go ahead and vote for Measure B. If you want real solutions, toss Measure B in the garbage and vote for the real housing solutions in Measure C. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. We'll have you back up for a round. Oh, sorry, guys. Oh, that's nasty. Sorry, guys. Thank you, sir. Elaine and Hector, if you'd like to come up now. We're gonna move on now to measure C. Sorry, not.
Don't stand in front of the speaker.
Oh, well, duh. Sorry, guys, haven't had a speaker in front of me for a while. That was obvious. Thank you, Kristen. We're gonna move on to Measure C now. Measure C again is Workforce Housing Affordability Act of 2025. We have with us today, two representatives. Speaking yes on Measure C will be Elaine Johnson. Elaine is the current Executive Director of Housing, Santa Cruz County. And Hector Marin will also be speaking. He will be the no on Measure C. And he is a community organizer who's with us today. Thank you for coming, Hector and Elaine. Elaine, we'll have you start when you're ready. And when Kristen's ready, we'll start the 4-minute timer for your remarks. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity for me to be here. As we know, Santa Cruz is in the middle of a housing crisis. The cost of housing here is one of the highest in the nation, and many local residents can no longer afford to live in a community where they work or grew up in. Seniors on fixed incomes are struggling to stay in their homes, and too many of our neighbors are unhoused and living without stability. Without action, we risk losing the very people who make Santa Cruz work. The essential workers who staff our hospitals and schools, the families who want to raise their children here, and the elders who help build this community. Measure C is a solution. It creates thousands of permanent affordable rental homes for local workers and families. It funds supportive housing with wraparound services for those experiencing homelessness or living with health challenges or disabilities. It provides eviction prevention stipends, helping renters stay in their homes and avoid the trauma of displacement. It ensures that local residents get priority access to these new homes. Who will benefit? Our teachers, nurses, grocery clerks, first responders, and service workers. Seniors who want to age in place without fear of displacement. Young families who want to stay in the community they grew up in. And our unhoused neighbors who will have the stability and dignity that housing provides. But ultimately, the whole community benefits. Housing stability reduces homelessness, strengthens our local economy, and creates a healthier, more equitable Santa Cruz. How do these funds work? A modest parcel tax of $8 a month for non-exempt property owners, just $8 a month. A tiered real estate transfer tax, which only applies to the highest value property sales above $1.8 million. So if you sell a home for $2 million, the tax will be $1,000. There are also important protections built in. Seniors and low-income homeowners are exempt from the taxes. A one-person household would need to make less than $56,000 a year to qualify for exemption. A family of 4 would qualify if they made less than $80,000 annually. A senior household of 1 would need to make less than $74,000 annually, and a senior couple, $85,000 annually. All funds raised go directly to the City Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This is not a new experiment. The trust fund has already helped build nearly 400 affordable homes in just the last 5 years. Measure C allows us to build on that proven success. With Measure C, we expect to generate about $5 million every year, roughly $100 million over 20 years. And because local dollars are so powerful in unlocking state and federal matching funds, this investment will multiply, bringing in even more resources into Santa Cruz for affordable housing. Importantly, this measure has a 20-year sunset clause. This is not a forever tax. The benefits of Measure C ripple across the entire community. Local businesses get the workforce they need. Workers can live closer to their jobs, cutting down on traffic. Families gain stability. Seniors can age in place, and our household neighbors finally get a chance for stability and dignity. Some of our supporters of Measure C: Santa Cruz Community Health, County Office of Education, our local Santa Cruz NAACP, Peace United Church, Assemblymember Gail Pellerin and Senator John Laird, our Carpenters Union, SEIU 521, and that's just to name a few. And in the interest of time, I have information in the back room. There's frequently asked questions. We have a kickoff event that is happening this afternoon at 2 o'clock at 407 Ocean View Avenue. Please feel free to join us. We'd love to have you, and we hope we get your endorsement today. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Hector, whenever you're ready, Kristen will start the timer. Thank you.
Can I stand up or should I remain? Okay, for sure.
What about that? Thank you.
Buenos días todos. Buenos días todas. Gracias. Thank you all so much for showing out. I would like to first off start off by appreciating every single one of you by showing out and still organizing and coming out so we can have a much more democratic future, so we can also have a feminist future at the same time. So give yourselves a round of applause. Come on, guys. Come on, let's go. Come on. Donald Trump hates to see this, by the way. So, yes, so my name is Hector Marin. I'm a Santa Cruz City Schools educator, and I'm also an essential worker for Copal. Peggy, I think I've served you a couple of times in Copal restaurant, so shout out to Copal. But yes, I think me and Elaine, my colleague Elaine, we can both agree that there is an affordable housing crisis within the city of Santa Cruz. But we must also ensure that we have sustainable solutions and solutions that prioritize locals and that also prioritize the middle class of the city of Santa Cruz. The middle class residents of Santa Cruz are already tacked on with enough taxes. We already have rising taxes that are going on. The cost of living is just increasing all the way more too at the same time. And as the cost of living is increasing, we must ask ourselves, should the middle class really pay more taxes to bail out the city council? And I got much love and respect for the city council, but to bail out the taxes that are in place concurrently, which is increasing all of these, which is increasing this cost of living. So we must ask ourselves that. And also, the one thing that we must ensure and that we must consider is that Measure C will make home ownership much more harder for the middle class, for the working class, and for our future, for our holiness in the city of Santa Cruz. We need a diverse set of housing options when it comes to delivering true affordable housing for our people. That is the main reason why we are here in America. We are here for the American dream. My parents migrated within America so they can own a home. And my mom used to be a hotel service worker. She would work endless nights, and eventually, through enough hard work and dedication, she became a homeowner. So we must ensure that we also preserve and that we make home ownership much more affordable for our people. Measure C will only increase the cost of living, and it'll only increase the property values at the same time. A few holes that I also want to tack on when it comes to Measure C. There's a 0.5% transfer tax rate that is set on property values between $1.5 million and $2.5 million. With the increasing CPI that is going on throughout the city and throughout the country at large, property values will just increase. And eventually, the average home, which is valued at $1.3 million, it'll increase to 1.8 million, and eventually the middle class will be taxed in effect. So we must also consider that. The other thing that we also must consider too is that, there's also a $200,000 cap, which protects the out-of-town luxury developers, and it protects the billionaires and millionaires from ever being taxed under Measure C. We must ask ourselves whether this is a truly progressive initiative. And another thing that we must also ensure is that we pass policies that are sustainable, that are fiscally responsible. Us as Democrats, that's what we are for. We are for transparency, fiscal responsibility, and we are for democracy. And we must ask ourselves, will this measure truly put locals at the forefront of housing? There are no reinforcement mechanisms which guarantees that workers and locals will maintain and will obtain that priority housing which Measure C is falsely promoting. So we need real solutions so we can ensure that we have a Santa Cruz that keeps up the American dream. Gracias todos, gracias todas. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Elaine, you now have 2 minutes to respond or to make any additional points you would like to in regard to Hector's comments.
Yes, well, first off, for the tiered value of homeowner is purchasing of a home is over 1.8 million. It's not the 1.3 million. And it does cap at $200,000, which is actually a great thing. It's not a negative. Measure C is the solution. Right now, is it the only solution? No, but this is a big part of the solution, right? Being able to house our community, our friends, our family, our colleagues is a solution, right? Making sure that people can stay in their homes. It's not just building, but it's also making sure people stay housed. You know, that's absolutely critical. How many people do we hear that are one paycheck away from being unhoused? That's real world. And how many people are juggling between, do I pay the landlord or eat? That's real world. Measure C will cover that. And that's why I am standing in agreement with this.
Thank you so much, Elaine. And Hector, you have 2 minutes now as well to respond to any thing that you'd like to respond to in terms of what was presented on Measure C.
Yeah, of course. So 90% of these funds are going to go into housing, right? And also 10% of these funds are going to go into homelessness as well. And the one thing that we must consider is that whenever I'm driving down Coral Street or whenever I'm going through downtown and I see a family that is seeing a drug addict, you know, a unhoused drug addict that is overdosing on fentanyl, we need to ask ourselves, do we really need more of this? So right now, we do need to build more housing and we do need to resolve the homelessness crisis as well. But the main thing that we also must consider is that we have built so much right now, thanks to the current city council, right? And we must see whether this is concurrently working for now, whether it's sustainable for now. And we also must ensure that we provide accountability when it comes to the current homelessness services that we're providing. As you're seeing downtown, it is not working to the best of the benefit of the middle class as it should. And we must ask ourselves, should we really funnel more of our funds, the taxpayers' funds, the middle class's funds, into this into this taxation policy? We shouldn't. That's the perspective that I come from as a teacher. And as an essential worker. When Elaine is saying we're trying to build more housing for the teachers and essential workers, the cost of living is so high that, you know, I'm already being priced out. And this will only increase the property values and indirectly increase the renter's price at the same time. So we must consider that. And the one thing that we also must consider is path towards home ownerships. There was this, when I was teaching one of my students, we were talking about the rising cost of the city of Santa Cruz. And we were talking about how just the solutions on that. And I was helping him out on the project regarding this. And the one thing that my student told me is, Mr. Hector, I don't want to stay a renter my whole life. Mr. Hector, I want to ensure that I also own a home within this city because this is my home. So Measure C will make that much more harder. And not only that, we must reconsider whether we should give more of our money into this fund because our homelessness crisis is already vast enough as it is, and we must see whether if we want more of this. So thank y'all so much. I trust that y'all will make an awesome, amazing choice. We are Democrats, we're feminists. At the end of the day, we're all on the same team. So we must ensure that we make a Santa Cruz that is more affordable together.
Thank you very much, Hector. All right, I think I'm going to move now to questions and answers. Yes, Carol?
I'd like to ask both centers and the answers to that overused word transparency. How much is the actual tax for each of them, and how much is the real estate transfer charge? Straight to the total tax there on the real estate transfer charge.
Yeah, so the parcel tax is $8 a month. And the real estate transfer tax it's tiered, so anything over 1.8 million to 2.5 million, it's 0.5%, and then it goes up from there.
I'm going to be circulating, please keep your questions to questions, not long statements, and I'll circulate with the microphone.
And so it'll bring in about 5 million a year and 100 million for 20 years.
And I just want to jump in and say, of course, questions to Dawn as well. So please feel free.
Should I answer this too? Yeah, so, yeah. Yes, so with what's going on is that it'll be a 0.5 transfer tax rate for property values between 1.8 million to 2.5. It'll increase to 1.0 between 2.5 to 3.5. Then it'll increase from 1.5 between 3.5 to 4.5, and anything above 4.5, it'll be set at 2.0% in the transfer tax rate. And I would also like to note that the concurrent transfer tax rate is 1/10 of 0.04%. You can fact check me on that, but it's a drastic tax increase that we're obtaining and that we're passing in City Hall if we pass Measure C, which is why I'm against it. It's too extreme. Total property taxes, it'll be a $96 parcel tax rate from what I'm I'm against it. I'm against it. I mean, it'll generate $10 million for.
She's asking you what Measure B is. Yours is 50.
Oh, I don't represent Measure B. That's not me. So yeah, I'm not talking on behalf of Measure B.
Total tax for Measure B.
For Measure B, it'll be like 6 million from what I know. I mean, I haven't studied Measure B as much.
Tax bill.
It'll be
Know that?
it'll be vastly less. It's because I'm not talking in support of Measure B, Carol.
That's right, that's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
I'm talking
Okay.
against Measure
Let's
C.
be
strictly.
fine. That's
Thank
right.
you. We're gonna go to Rochelle back here.
I have two questions. I have one for Hector, which is how you keep saying this will increase our home values, and I'm curious how that would be. And my question for Elaine is, on the ballot statements, it says you know, preferences will be given to people who are local or work locally. But the issue with that is also later in your ballot statement, you say that you're gonna couple this money with maybe grants from the state and federal. Once you do that, you cannot give preference to anyone based on where they're located. So somebody living in Iowa could apply for, you know, a housing unit here. I'm just curious how you would address that. So those are my two questions.
So anytime that when you're doing something locally to bring in funding, it looks good when you're applying for grants. It shows that you're showing initiative. And so I don't think that will take away our local power. It just shows the state and federal government that, okay, they're doing stuff on the grounds here locally in their hometown, in our county, and that it'll allow us to, it ups the ante for us to be able to get approved for additional funding, which is the intent of it.
Legally, the federal and state government cannot give a preference to people locally. So that's, I was putting that out there because I'm curious about the reaction to
Okay, I'll check, I'll dive more deeper into that.
that. Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Oh.
I think there was one question directed at me.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, so this will really increase the cost of living, mainly because the CPI is already increasing with the economy as it is, and economics is economics. And with what you have going on is that the property values of an average home will increase. The average property value for a Santa Cruz home is $1.3 million. The transfer tax rate is applied towards property values that range between $1.8 million to $2.5 million. So as the CPI increases, the cost of living will increase, which therefore will also increase the property value of your respective home within the middle class. So economics is economics, and that's one thing that we also got to consider. And Measure C does not consider this economic principle, supply and demand.
Thank you, Hector. We have another question here.
Thank you. My question is for either, and it is, are Measure C funds eligible to support home ownership, or will it only be used for rental unit support?
Both.
Thank you. Both.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Was it applied to me or just Elaine?
Anyone.
Oh, anyone. Do you want me to answer or? So the one thing about this is that the middle class will still be taxed under Measure C. And we got to make sure that we ensure that we have fair tax policies that does not tax the middle class.
I have a question for Hector.
Yes.
So this Proposition C went through a long process of evolution that took into account consensus from a broad spectrum of the community. And I can understand the problems you see with it. But could you say something positive about how you would solve the problem if Proposition C does not pass?
So you're asking if I would offer an alternative solution to Measure C? Is that your question? Just to clarify.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're here taking bad vibes, so let's clothe yourself in something positive.
Yeah, of course. I think, and I'm all for collaboration. I want to make it transparently. I salute Elaine's work as a nonprofit executive director of Housing Santa Cruz. I'm all for collaboration. I'm not for negativity or just opposed. But the one solution that I feel like we can all do is that the City Hall can cut through the bureaucratic red tape when it comes to making more housing, so we can decrease the costs when it comes to building more affordable housing. The one thing that we can also introduce, and folks may feel a certain way about this, but we just gotta ensure that we consult the community first, that we consult our neighborhoods, our barrios, our fellow vecinos and vecinas, so they can also come up with the solutions. So I'm not here to tell y'all that I know the solution to everything. I don't know the solution to everything. I'm just a part of the community, and that's it. We must ensure that we prioritize our neighborhood groups, that we involve the vecinos and the vecinas in the local political process. I know that there was there were public meetings here that was hosted here within the police room, and I commend, Mayor Keeley and everybody else for doing that. But when it comes to community outreach in the grassroots way, in which we go door to door to make sure that we involve the middle class and the working class in the formation of this tax initiative, that's something that we must do so we can gain their perspective, and so we can also form a tax initiative that is much more equitable for our vecinos and vecinas.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Are there any questions online?
No.
Okay. Okay, well, if we're done with questions, then what we'd like to do is let each person who came today have a 1-minute wrap up. So we are going to do that. And then we'll move towards concluding the meeting. So everybody's questions been answered so far? Okay. And again, Hector was here as a no on C. We did invite representatives to be yes on B who were not able to be here. So I want to really encourage everybody to head out to the City of Santa Cruz website, where you can find a lot of detail and answers, yes and no. That's posted on the website there, and you can read in a lot more detail about both of these measures. And with that, Dawn, would you like to start? I'm sorry that I don't know quite that we did the seating correctly here, but I'd love for you to have a 1-minute wrap up, and Kristen will time you, and then we can move on to Hector and then Elaine. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to appreciate your question, sir, because you noted correctly that Measure C had a real vigorous community process, whereas Measure B, basically a bunch of realtors in Sacramento, their association and the local association got together and cooked up Measure B without any consultation with anyone in this room or in our community other than some other realtors. And that is a sham, to think that they then put out a brochure talking about their measure, Measure B, as being the only one that's really coming from the community. It's just complete crap. And I just hope people will reject that and look at a much more community-based solution like Measure C. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Yes, go ahead, Hector, when Kristen's ready.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the one thing that we must ensure is that we should pass policies which puts community first. We must ensure that we put community at the forefront of our tax policies, especially if we're going to be taxing the middle class. And we can do that collectively together. The one thing that Measure C does is that it'll just increase the cost of living by taxing the middle class. And not only will it do that, it'll give unsustainable solutions towards our community. We must ask ourselves if we should really feed into the homelessness problem that is going on throughout the city by giving more money to it. We must ask ourselves whether the middle class should bail out City Hall at their political missteps. And we must ensure that we all come together next time, that we not only come together, but that we invite our vecinos, our vecinas, so we can make a sustainable initiative which truly resolves the housing crisis within the city of Santa Cruz. We are Democrats, we are feminists. Thank you all so much for your time.
As mentioned, Measure C is the solution, designed by the community for the community. It takes a village to do what it is that we're going to be doing here so we can bring affordable housing here, continue to bring more affordable housing here in Santa Cruz County so that our community can drive. Not just my community, it's all of our communities. And so I want to thank you again for the opportunity for being here. As I said, there's information on the table if you have any additional questions. But at the end of the day, it's all about community and growing our community. And that